Good afternoon. Let us resume the session and continue with this module about international frameworks. And we had an introduction this morning, a presentation this morning by the American State Organization. We have invited them as a reference organization in international cooperation. And we are looking at international global perspectives in cybersecurity. And I do not want to emphasize the global and international aspects of cybersecurity or cybercrime. We all know about this, and we know that the origin of attacks is international, but there's also an international dimension in terms of cooperation and how to face those threats and respond to those threats. We really wanted to have the short session, to use the short session to address how we need to have a strategic development and actions for international cooperation. Yesterday, the head of the cabinet for the Secretary of State for ICT explained how one of the tools our ministry is developing is the strategy to support internationalization of the digital strategy for Smart Spain. That is part of the digital strategy for Spain. The 8th line of this strategy shows how international cooperation is a key aspect, and in particular cooperation within the EU. Allow me to highlight as well a note from the strategy, which says that the objective is to promote an international cyberspace that's safe, that's reliable for citizens, for users, for companies, and that it supports national interests. And such national interests also need us to strengthen our natural alliances with our partners, and the Organization of American States is one of those key partners. In the 10-11 years that we've had our institute, cooperation lines have been developed and have been translated in different forums. We've had active participation in the European Agency for Cybersecurity, NICE, and then first the network of incident response centers and other networks. And then we also have an agreement between the Kingdom of Spain and the Organization of American States. Has been another important landmark. And it is an important aspect in terms of bringing all of these activities in line. When we're thinking about internationalization of our companies, many different European agreements have helped us place our strategic interests and the interests of our technological partners within relevant projects for us and for the rest of Europe, such as the project ACBC, to generate a response network against zombie nets. Scala Lab, this has been the seed to have a support structure to cybersecurity and industrial control systems. Of course, we also have our active participation in forums that has helped us advocate for our national strategic interests in the fields of the industry, protection of citizens and companies. After a year, we have the project of EXO. This is something we discussed in the session just before the coffee break, where we see that the presence of this first public-private consortium on cybersecurity, in which Spain has an important representation as a public administration, and SMEs, users associations. And I also have to refer to your presence in international events such as this one, where we can have not just the Organization of American States here with us, but also countries such as Chile, Mexico, or Germany. They are the countries this year that have gone for an inverse mission. We are doing this parallelly to the main track and entrepreneurial track. We're having 100 sales and purchase meetings of Spanish supply with the Institute of External Trade, and that's part of our international vocation of ENISE. But I'd like to mention some other events. This morning, the Executive Secretary of OEA mentioned the Gender Forum. These are events co-organized by the OEA and INCIBE from Spain, and they're also trying to show the relevance of international cooperation in this light. And this is the line we have to increase. Last September, we also started a new initiative for our digital agenda, and we had a support office for Spanish participation in EU programs. And such participation, as we will see in the next session, we will have our colleagues from CDTI. We have a strong cooperation line. INCIBE has a specific budget line to be a lever for initiatives that may be presented by Spanish interests in R&D and I in the field of cybersecurity. This is not just resources and support that we are offering, but an important contribution of financial resources to incentivize the success of Spanish companies. And I will not speak about Mr. Burkham because the Executive Secretary of the OEA already spoke about this. And this is part of our initiative of the private-public partnership. The objective of this bootcamp is not just to cooperate in the development of skills and friends in the countries of Latin America, but also in countries in Africa and Asia Pacific. We have around 255 professionals from 25 countries. They have taken part in the second edition in León, and this allows us to develop an interesting cooperation network with the response centers and with the representatives of law enforcement in all these countries. So this is a very relevant tool in terms of establishing cooperation relationships in our global response against global threats and cyber threats. This is also a good way to show you not just our capacities, but also how to share them. So in this sense, ISAC, a tool to share threats, is already present in 3 Latin American countries, and it is ready to be slowly introduced in other countries so that we can exchange information with our response center for incidents. This is part of the gaps that are not covered by training, and we fill the gap also with a cooperation tool. We also have our international CyberX. This is another important project that we need to mention here. Our traditional activities with the Spanish industry, with the national exchange, CyberX was enlarged. We have now an international CyberX. It was held in the month of July, and it was organized by the OEA and INCIBE, and we could offer for 24 countries with 48 centers, response centers, participating in 293 professionals. We could offer a space that was not just about providing skills training or testing response capacities to drill of cybersecurity instrument. It was also a tool that helped us strengthen cooperation. We're very happy and satisfied with the with the response that we're having from different international institutions, and we are really hoping that you can take part in these and other initiatives that are open to suggestions and to your participation and the participation of third parties. Without any further ado, I'm going to give the floor to Gonzalo García-Belenguer as a representative of the OEA. He has been working for the past 4 years talent programs for OEA, and he will be discussing how there's an alignment and synergies between these strategies for international cooperation, the ones that we've shared, and their organization. Good afternoon, how are you all? I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me and for inviting the OEA. I'm happy due to several reasons. First, because we have been working with INCIBE for the past 3 years and all my colleagues have come, and at long last, it's my time to come. That's one of the reasons why I'm happy. And secondly, coming to Spain to tell what we're doing, this is there's another first for me, and I'm very happy. As Félix said, my name is Gonzalo García-Belenguer. I've been working for 4 years in the Department of Cybersecurity, and I'm coordinating with some colleagues the issue of accreditation and research of the program. So the presentation will look a bit like Alison's, but just because I want to go back to some of the points that she highlighted this morning. What is the agenda? We see a snapshot of the challenges in the region, the areas, she mentioned that, the strategy, national strategies, courses and trainings, that's my spotlight, and working with other organizations. What are the challenges of the region? Alison has already discussed these. We identified them with the Ibero-American Development Bank and Oxford University, and we identified these six challenges in the region. For me, the most interesting one is that 26 countries in the region do not have an educational plan for cybersecurity. The OEA has 35 member states. Of course, Canada and the US do not need support in the development of cybersecurity, but 26 of 33 do not have any kind of educational plan for cybersecurity. I would personally say that the biggest problem in the region is the gap that we have in the capacity and training of human resources. We do not have enough skilled people to do the job that we have to do. Other challenges in the region, certs, of course, money, budget, dough, as we would say colloquially, and mandates and authority and organizational positioning. One of the challenges we saw in the previous slide was that there is no legal framework for many countries. What do I have to do? What can I do? What is my level of responsibility? Which part of the ministry do we belong to, etc. It's like me going to work today and not knowing from my boss what I have to do, or when I'm hired, I'm not told about my functions. Then logistics, apart from the money, we need to think about logistics. Where do we introduce the certs? And all that is missing, and also the framework. And then about people, I'm from Zaragoza in Spain, and I love football, and sometimes I forget I am from Zaragoza and I support the Zaragoza football team, but I support Athletic. And we have players such as Villa and Morientes, and if you cannot pay them and you cannot offer them a career, then Madrid comes along or Barcelona comes along and they leave. This is the same thing. You have a guy who's starting and a private company comes, they give them huge money and they leave. These are the problems in the region. And also the level of certs. What do we do? Alison mentioned this. We develop policies, our confidence measures. So the first meeting about this will be held in December. Development of capacities, development of certs, and development of compliance or trainings about compliance. We do everything. And how do we decide? The member state says I need a training in this and that, and we organize that training with international cooperation. For example, we call INCIBE, Félix, we need your help. We need an expert to come and train these guys. For example, in law enforcement. Somebody asked before how the cooperation with Spain happened, whether we had the capacity to have more cooperation in the future. And of course, we cooperate with Spain. We've worked with Renfe, on INCIBE, with ENIPIC, with the Super Guards, the cybernetic unit. We're always looking for cooperation, and we're open to such cooperation. If we can bring any expertise from Spain to Latin America, we're happy to welcome them. And we know that Latin America sees Spain as a leader, not just because of the language, but they see us as leaders in other stuff. And then dissemination, research and dissemination, many reports, Alison has mentioned this, and initiatives to create awareness amongst young people and citizens. National strategies, Alison mentioned this, but I'd like to go back to two things. First, we do not have a secret formula. Each country needs whatever they need. They have the particular idiosyncrasy and they need a different strategy. For example, Colombia is thinking about defense. They have a cybernetic command working group. Paraguay, for example, has a strategy that focuses more on ICT service providers, legal frameworks, what they can do, what they cannot do, if there are any problems, etc. And the second aspect is when we speak about private-public cooperation. When we develop a strategy, we bring all the sectors in the country together. Academia, civil society, banks, etc. So this may take up to 3 years, and we try to look for information and bring everybody together so that it's more comprehensive. These are the strategies. Alison already mentioned this. I'm not going to repeat it. And then courses and trainings. A boot camp is one of our workshops with INCIBE. We're very happy about this. It's always very successful. I think this year in 2 days we had around 2,000 people who were registered to come. And then CyberX, this is the second time around. The first one the next one will be organized by a Latin American team. And this is my baby, this project. I can't say it's just my baby, as the whole department has worked. But this started with the City Foundation. They have a program called Pathway to Progress to train kids between 17 and 25 years of marginalized communities and to introduce them in the economy. So when we were talking to them, we thought that, okay, the biggest problem in Latin America to me is the lack of skilled workers. So we talked to them and we decided to do this because that would be, we have their pathway to progress and we would capacitate young people and find talent. So we've trained 127 students, 38 in Colombia, 40 in Peru, 28 in Panama, and 23 in Tobago, and Trinidad and Tobago. And we've worked with 10 universities. What is the project about? We've trained them with an ISACA trainer, and they have an ISACA trainer and Foundations for Cybersecurity. So with this certificate, they can work in an entry point position in an institution or consultancy. We're working with Ernst & Young, with Telefonica. These are companies that are cooperating with us. And the second phase of the project after certification is that we get an active internship in the countries. And another component in the program is awareness. We had more than 300 people. We had 4 events with more than 300 attendants, and we had people from Citibank, from Micro, presenting how to do business online in a safe way. So we had events focusing on SMEs to show them how to do online business. Okay, these are 12 of the kids who were trained during that course, 4 from Colombia, 4 from Peru, 4 from Panama. We could say that the best got an internship in micro. Now they're now in Mexico. They've been there for 2 weeks being trained so that they can work with them for 6 months. And hopefully many of them will stay there where they are. This is the first phase. Now if we go into the second phase, we will start implementing it this year. Instead of training 120 kids, we'll train 160. We'll have an online course in which Spaniards can also take part. This is a mass online course for SMEs. We'll have a business accelerator here in León for the best 20 students. And apart from that, they will take part in the summer boot camp. And we will have tutoring, mainly from Train Micro, for 20 students. What is special about this project? We will do it with INCIBE, so it will have a stronger background and a wider scope. What do we do in the development of certs in the Americas? I've already discussed the problems we had in 2017. This is what the status. In 2006 we just had 3, and I can proudly say that we have cooperated and we have had something to do with at least 90% of these certs. For example, the Dominican Republic, this year and last year we've been working with them in these matters, and their cert is ready to be implemented. How do we work on implementation? As many of them do not know about the functions, how far they have to go. We developed a guide of good practices. This is a very basic report. It tells you how to create a cert from 0 to 100. Or what kind of planning you need to have, what is the implementation, what is closure. We have information about human resources, about technology, about the scope. This is online. If you're interested, this is a free resource online. And something else we do is CERT Americas. That is the network of this hemisphere. This is a technological platform offering different services: real-time communication, information exchange, and coordination. And which are the certs taking part? Defense, police, government, and national certs. These are the response teams in the Americas. What is the goal of this platform? To consolidate a community and to foster an exchange of alerts and information. This is one of the most complex things. It is to share information with your neighbor. That is difficult with organizations nationally. Just imagine what happens from a country to another country. Maybe you do not know your neighbor to know what's happening to you. And this is one of the things we're trying to change. What are some of the tangible results of these networks? 65 shared handbooks across 65 certs, 3,000 alerts, monthly alerts, and we have every 6 hours an analysis of trends. There are specialized services for South America and early warning services as well. One of the slides Alison showed and I would like to have was that of the outcomes. We've helped more than 600 people this year, webinars for more than 5,000, all those details that are important. Our model is based on cooperation, as for example with INCIBE, with all the organizations in the region, private and public. We work with many institutions and we also work with the academia in order to get to all the parties involved or stakeholders in the countries. And that's it. If you have any questions about what we do, I'll be happy to reply. Thank you.
¿Podrías contar?
Could you tell us, if you are aware of it, what kind of future has this cooperation between the cybersecurity industry in Latin America and Spain? Oh, you mean in the two directions, from here to there and there to here? Well, we have worked together in the field of industrial security and critical infrastructure. In fact, in Medellin, we will be holding an event on industrial security in the power sector. And I came here to see whether I could talk to somebody who could come to Medellin in December to deliver a speech about what is being done in Spain and good practices and success stories. Because the government of Colombia, we're working with the Defense Ministry on ISAGEN, that is the Association of Power Organizations, that they have requested that somebody from Spain comes to share good practices. So these events are happening all the time, and we invite experts to come and share their views and the experiences of Spain and Europe. They are very interested. For Latin America, Spain is on the top, and they want to follow what we're doing. And then, apart from that, for me, not for OEA, for me, the two countries that have more to share would be Uruguay and Colombia. But I do not know if Spain is interested about this, because Colombia is a country that focuses much on the Ministry of Defense and police, and everything works that way, and I'm not sure whether that's a focus Spain is interested in. And Uruguay, they're very good in the development of certs and policies. The organization responsible for certs and biosecurity celebrated its 10th anniversary in September this year. And they're very good in the development of policy development. That might be an interesting aspect too.
Muchas gracias.